and welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hacohen of Kormans LP, and back for another episode. It's been a little while. One of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Wow.
One of the people I've known longest on this earth.
That's true.
Mr. Elan Weintraub of Mortgage Outlet. Elan, welcome back to the Chosen Life.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we're going into 2025 now, finishing off the year. Everybody's very excited. Lots of hope for the new year. And you and I were talking off camera. So, I published about a year ago now the book, The Bible 3.0, The 6 Commandments of the Chosen Life. And you're telling me somebody you know is reading the book.
Yes, a very special person. My mom is reading it, and she actually loves it. So I only gave it to her a few days ago, and she's very impressed, and it really touches her. It's really nice.
Well, I appreciate that. It's funny, we're going to talk about moms now. So do you have time for a quick therapy session?
Of course. Why not?
So my mom gets a copy of the book, one of the first people to get the book, right? She makes me autograph for her, and then she starts reading it. I come follow up with her about 3 weeks later. I still haven't read it. I'm in the middle of another book. When I'm done the other book, then I will start your book. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how many sons you have that write books, but sure. So it takes about 2 months to start reading the book. She gets into the book about a week and a half into it. I see her. I say, how the book's going? I'm done with the book. I'm not reading this book. And I said to her, what's wrong with the book? How come you're not reading the book? She goes to me, was I such a terrible mother? You had such a sad existence. It's all my fault. You're telling the whole world I'm a bad mother. And I looked at her, I'm like, it's not about that at all. It's like when you're in a certain mental frame at different points in your life, no matter who's in your life, no matter how much they can influence or not influence you, this is just where people are at in life. But she took it so personally, which I expected her to. And then I told her, you know what? You're off the hook. You don't have to read the book. But it's so funny. If she'd continue going through with it, she could have started reflecting, I think, on a bigger level. But it's hard. Elan, in general, for people when they're reading books, how many people start a book, stop a book right away, something bothers them, something the author said or the theme, and they just stop it without giving it a chance?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of really positive insights in the book and like life tips and stuff. So I guess, listen, it was very personal to her. I thought you were going to say she already knows the Chosen Lawyer story. What does she need to read it for?
It made me think. This morning I made it to yoga. Okay, so I made it to the 9:30 class in the morning, and I'm in yoga. And as I'm there, I see like I'm the only guy in there. And then one guy shows up. He's got to be about 21, 22. And you could tell he's there with his girlfriend. His girlfriend brought him to yoga. They go to the back of the room. He starts off with the t-shirt in the hot yoga class. And I'm like, okay, this will take about 5 minutes till that shirt comes off. Sure enough, it does. And as I'm watching through the class, I could see in the corner of my eye when I'm doing certain postures. And he's just not following along. He's just laughing. He's like, this is ridiculous. And he's not even hearing the words of where the posture. So he's trying to do the posture without even hearing the instructions from the teacher of how to do it. And you could just tell he's giving up. I want to get out of this room as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've done now maybe thousands of hours of yoga, but I was him. I was in that room.
Yeah.
First time my girlfriend took me at the time to a 90-minute class, because that was all that was available for us. And I gave up about 45 minutes into it, and I said, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing. The more something challenges us and the harder it is to do it, that's where it's more important not to give up and to keep going and keep trying, right?
Yeah. And also, I think there's an element, because I have a similar yoga story. Like, I never liked yoga, and I've started to appreciate it. I actually really like hot yoga now. And it's not, especially earlier on, that I loved it in the moment, but it's more like I'm investing time in myself. I'm building, I'm, strengthening, I'm de-stressing. So you're doing it not necessarily for the immediate benefit, but also the long-term benefit. And I actually really like hot yoga now. So
when I started noticing that every professional athlete in major sports, especially the top ones, they start coming out and saying, I do yoga. I started to understand why. It's my personal trainer tells me like, wow, you're not getting injured all the time. And I'm like, well, I'm doing hot yoga all the time. So I'm all stretched out. I'm flexible. I feel good. But where it is, Elan, it's, people think so much about the physicality of it and holding the postures and everything else. It's the mental aspect of it. When I took a 2-week vacation, I did the road trip, went down to the States and went across, different Barnes and Nobles for the autograph signings. I was on the road so much, I said, you know what, I can't schedule yoga in here. Like, I need to be on the road all the time, and I need time to sleep. 2 weeks of not doing yoga, I noticed as soon as I got back, my mental state mood was so bad. I was defeated, tired, upset, irritable. I start going back to yoga. I do a couple classes, and I'm
Yeah.
back on cloud number
Yeah.
9. So I notice as more on the mental side even than the physical side.
Yeah. Do you, I find similar when I'm off for hockey for a few weeks, but were you stiff when you got back, or was it just more the mental side of things?
I was definitely stiff.
Yeah.
I noticed that I had a hard time holding things. Everything felt creaky, you know. But more, it was like I couldn't lie there still. I couldn't lie before class and just lie there still. It's everything like my brain was going a mile a minute, you know. And then once I went back to yoga, I'm starting to take on more stress at work, but I'm doing yoga, so I'm handling the stress way better. And when I'm yoga, I'm able to say, okay, I'm in yoga right now. Time to shut off the brain. Goodbye, problems. I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because a lot of people talk about presence, and, you know, it's very hard in today's world to be present, you know, especially young kids. You're like on your phone while watching a movie, while doing homework and stuff. But when I play hockey, I'm like, all I'm thinking about is hockey. And part of the reason it's so much fun is because you're present, you're in the moment, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about other people. And I think that's, you know, very true with yoga as well. And the classes that I've been into at yoga, they always, you know, oh, your thoughts will escape you because it's just normal, right? Oh, work or family or this or that. And then a good instructor will like bring you back into the moment, which is awesome.
I noticed a couple of instructors, what they do is they tell us, like at the beginning of class, make sure you follow along. Don't assume what the next posture is. Because what's easy when you know the sequences, you just go into autopilot and you're like up, down, side, and you just start doing it without even listening.
It's like a checklist.
But they tell you all of a sudden, start on the left side. Now you're going up. And you're like, wait a minute, am I going from the right down? And it's because you're just assuming. If you stop thinking 10 steps ahead, live in the moment, and actually listen to what they say. I notice in yoga sometimes when I'm in a certain posture, I just close my eyes. And when I'm closing my eyes, I don't think of anything. I just listen to what the person is saying. And as I'm listening to what they're saying, I'm getting what they're saying because I'm nowhere else but in the moment and following along. But, you know, think about when we're in meetings. We're in business meetings and mortgages and law. If all of a sudden you're thinking of your next appointment and trying to solve that problem while you're in the meeting with somebody trying to fix a current problem, our brains don't have the capacities to do both at the same time, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Well, it's kind of funny because I'm drifting a bit, but I'm thinking of a Simpsons. Homer Simpson was very good at drifting and like do 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 do. So yeah, it's hard to stay focused for sure.
Mr. Simpson, what about we're talking about chocolate? That was 20 minutes ago. But like we can do that. Like it's funny, we are all guilty of that. And I blame the phones. Like at the end of the day, we come into this world where, you know, you can't just sit and do something. You got to be on your phone all the time, scrolling while watching TV, while talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Like even in meetings, I know there are people that are on Zoom meetings and they have that TV on the background and
are you
mute.
kidding? Are you
for
kidding?
sure. And then they're drifting. I could see their eyes. They're looking at the TV. This is where I would challenge everybody, you know, go to yoga. That's where you don't have the TV on. You don't have your phone on. And you have no choice but to be there. And this is where I think people don't struggle with the fact that they don't know yoga and they can't do it. That takes practice. It's they hate the fact they're so disconnected. And I don't think being disconnected is such a bad thing.
Have you ever heard of those, what is it, those sound rooms where you can't hear anything? And like, have you heard of this? You know what I'm talking about?
I know.
You go into a room that's soundproof and there's zero sound, and then people go crazy in 60 minutes and they can't stay in the room. Like literally in like 7 minutes, they're screaming to get out of the room.
Have you heard of a concept called Vipassana?
No.
Vipassana, I went to the open house. It's up, so it's all over the world. Here in Ontario, Canada, there's a site up north, Alliston area, and Cookstown. And so what happens is when you go do this for the first time, this concept of Vipassana, you're making a commitment. First of all, there's a long waiting list. You're going to wait at least 2 years for this, from my understanding, okay? So let's say you get accepted on the list. It's free. You come, you check in your phone. There is no phone now. There's no contact from the outside world. You can give people the emergency number if something happens and they can call the center or whatever. But otherwise, there's no phone, no radio, no nothing. You are there with the people, 10 days, silence. Nobody's talking to you.
I think I've heard of this. Yeah.
And you have a schedule.
I wouldn't like that.
You're waking up, you're meditating. You go to eat, you meditate, go for a walk, go take a nap, wake up, meditate, go eat, go sleep. And this is all you're doing the whole time.
And no one is talking to anyone.
Nobody's talking to anybody. You're literally in silence for 10 days. Elan,
Yeah.
if my schedule in being
Yeah.
as part of a law firm, if I could do this right now and be disconnected for 10 days and not have to talk to anybody and hear nobody's problems, not have to talk to anybody myself in a freaking second, I would love this beyond. I'm like, where can I sign up? Can I do more than 10 days? But what I've heard is like what you're kind of saying, that sound room for an hour.
Yeah.
There are people that come to Vipassana 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. They leave out of there crying and screaming. They can't do this.
Yeah.
They literally can't. Now, for somebody who has a booming voice,
Yeah.
can you imagine holding it in and not talking for 10 days?
No, I think it's not booming voice. I think it's just like extrovert versus introvert. So extroverts would go crazy and introverts would be like, how can I move here?
It's kind of like the monk life, I guess. But if you went through Vipassana, let's say the schedule worked and you decide you want to do it and you went and did it, what do you think are the effects of being able to do a 10-day silent meditation retreat?
I mean, that's a great question. And it's a question of reflection. But I guess the main thing after 10 days is just like really reflection on every dimension. Like that would be very interesting.
I think the average person who doesn't reflect, that's not a priority for them, and they went and did this successfully. I think the big thing you would take out of it is the big picture. You would see yourself, your life, where you're at, where you've gone, how you got here, and a better idea of where you want to go.
That's definitely, where you want to go.
And I say that because having gone to the Buddhist temple and meditated there for an hour at a time, sometimes for a day, going a silent 1-day retreat, I notice it's a lot comes up to the surface. When we're alone with our thoughts, and it's almost like when you watch like the show Lost from back in the day, and they're constantly replaying their life and they're seeing those instances of what brought them to that moment and all the things they did wrong and all the things they did right and what they could have done. That's what comes to the surface. And we have a really hard time dealing with our past because we tend to blame ourselves a lot, not see the successes we had, but to focus on what we call the failures. And I think in order to move ahead, sometimes we need to close that past.
Yeah, and I think also like looking into the future, like what are your goals? Where do you see yourself? I think the big thing that I'm seeing now in Toronto, and especially like just talking about real estate and stuff, is prices are so expensive, and Toronto's becoming a huge rat race. And a lot of my clients, this is like a very similar vein, but a lot of my clients are like, should I move away from Toronto? Should I move to Mexico? Should I move to Halifax just to like simplify and de-stress and what have you? So yeah, it's similar.
There's so many people I know that went and sold their downtown Toronto condos, moved to the outskirt areas, and then they come back a year or two later like, I can't do this. I need to be where I was. I didn't realize how good I had it. And the only problem is now that property they sold at that time, and now they come back to like, wow, I got to pay a premium to get back what I had,
100%.
And sometimes I tell people, you know what? It's not the worst thing to go rent somewhere else, keep your property, try it out, and then you can feel good about it, or even go for a week, 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
But we have this thing where like we make a decision and we got to be all in. It's like, now's the decision. Sometimes it's not so bad to tip your toe and kind of test the water, so to speak, because there isn't that pressure, but we put those pressure on ourselves. And I think the more we make too soon of a change, the more likely we are to crash and fail. When we do it more gradually, not feeling it, you do a little change every day, every week, every month, all of a sudden a year, you're there. I just had somebody that I know that moved to Portugal, for example, hated it, came back a year later. And I told them, you know what? Did you ever think maybe to visit Portugal beforehand, maybe going to live there for a month first, But again,
They'd never been to Portugal?
Never been before, and said, you know what? I've read about it. I've seen it on TV. I'm going to go live in Portugal. I'm all in.
I respect that. Honestly, that's just like you're all in. You've got 100% guts. Like I give that person kudos, even if they came back. Yeah. I mean, I would have definitely not like sold everything and packed up shop, but I love people that go all in on stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just it's finding that kind of balance where people of not activity at all versus completely all in without real thought. And it's like there's got to be kind of a balance. So I got to ask you,
Yeah.
I know what brought me to yoga,
Yeah.
and something that I know I preach to all my friends. I know you've heard it
Sure.
from me long enough. What brought you ultimately to yoga? What made you the decision to try it?
So I think for me, it was a very rational and disciplined thing, which was I don't like yoga, but it's important and I'm going to do it. And just like I don't like it, I'm going to do it. I don't like it, I'm going to do it. Again, after I would do a yoga class, I would feel good. I would feel good that I did it. I would feel good, the physical benefits, but I would feel proud of myself or accomplished or whatever it is. And then after doing it, several times, I started to like it. But I like it's like eating your vegetables. No one necessarily wants to be like, I want to eat vegetables and I want to eat healthy. But if you eat healthy and you force yourself to eat healthy, it's not as fun as eating chocolate cake in the moment, but in the long term, it's much better.
Well, it's funny because for me it was a little more extreme, but I kind of told myself, on the path you're on right now, you're going to die and you're going to die at a young age.
Yeah.
We need to fix this right now. And to me, yoga was the simplest, easiest solution, the path of least resistance, because I knew it would fix me mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I'm going to do it. And you don't have a choice and you're going to keep going. And when I started going, it's funny, everybody thought I was a natural and I loved this for my entire life.
Yeah.
I was going for at least 6 months and I hated every single class.
Exactly, yeah.
I had the watch on. I was looking at my watch every 2 seconds. I'm like, when will this be over? And then I finished. I'm so proud of myself for going.
Right.
I'm so happy. But in the moment, I'm telling myself when I'm doing it, just finish this class. You never have to go back. And then when you're in the change room, you're like, yeah, I can't wait till tomorrow. But it was this constant pattern. And at some point, the thought just stopped. It's like you're just going and whatever happens, happens. And then the more I stopped trying, the more I started putting in the effort and just kind of went with it, the more I started seeing the results. It was funny how that worked out. But I hear you on that. And again, I was watching that guy in the room today and I was hoping I'd see him afterwards and kind of tell him, like, just stick with it, dude. Trust me, we have all been there. But he got his sweatshirt on. He didn't even go to the change room and he ran as fast as he could. Like, there are people, like, I see mats sitting in the front in the Lost and Found. I'm like, how do these mats end up here? People don't, like, remember to take their mats. And, like, we think they just leave them and, like, run, But those same people maybe won't be today and then next week, next month, next year. But at some point, they'll think back to it and they're like, maybe I should try it again. Maybe I should try it again. Like, think about everything we've ever done. Did we ever walk right away when we were babies? Did we talk right away? No, it was practice. I don't think yoga is any different.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people have different reasons for doing yoga. Like, I think even for me, again, flexibility is something that is important, and I think that, and I really like hot yoga. Like, I just feel that it stretches me out, and I feel looser and less stressed. So, yeah.
Well, let's end today, and I'm going to ask you the typical question. Then you're meeting somebody in a mortgage appointment, okay?
Sure.
So you have a client. They're coming to get their mortgage, first-time buyer, and they're like, I heard great things about you, and you talk about the mortgage rate, blah, blah. And somehow the conversation goes inevitably from mortgages to yoga. And they're like, Elan, that's great that you do yoga. Like, I'm so proud of you. That's amazing. Like, I'm in my 40s. I've never done yoga before.
Yeah.
I'm not flexible. I'll never be flexible. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm not a big weight, I don't think yoga's for me. What do you think? To that person, what would your answer be?
I mean, I would just say try it and try it many times. And there's also different kinds of yoga. Like, I really like hot yoga. I just feel that it really like stretches me out. I feel like I accomplished something, but there's different types. And again, like when you look at top athletes or top performers, they do use yoga, and everyone takes out, whether it's spirituality, whether it's, muscle toning or flexibility. I think there's a lot to it. So.
Look, it's good enough for Tom Brady. It's good enough for me.
That's right. That's 100% right.
That's how I see it. Well, this has been The Chosen Life. Elan, with your permission, we'll have you back another week because we have so much to cover here. That's Elan Weintraub of Mortgage Outlet. Elan, for people to reach you on mortgages, how do they get connected with you?
Tax 647-501-4663. Email elan@mortgageoutlet.ca. I got a lot of really interesting social media content on mortgages as well. So you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and all that good stuff.
One of the things I love about watching you on social media, I don't just learn all the time, which I do, but you're actually quite fun and engaging with
I
it.
try.
So that's it. So that's what the world needs, fun and engagement. See y'all back real soon on the Chosen Life podcast.